Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So I've got a concrete floor that I need to level today, so let's get it done. Hey y'all, how's it going? So we're down here in my basement and we are going to be getting some home gym equipment. We've got a squat rack with a Smith machine and weight stacks and stuff on it on the way. So I've been down here getting this room cleaned up and I noticed that we used to have a bed sitting right here that we've moved to the other side of the basement. But once I moved that bed, I realized that I have a big problem. So this is where the center of the weight rack is going to be. And if you notice, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but if you look over here at the baseboard, you can see a gap, 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 no gap, and gap. And we have a massive hump in the floor right here. And since this gap in these two pieces of tape is the center line of where this thing's going to be, that's pretty much right on center. So it's going to have one support here, one support on this side. That's where these other two pieces of tape are. And the front is open, but the back does have a crossbar because it's got a low row and stuff like that for it. So unfortunately, this has to get leveled out. So we're going to do some concrete leveling, which means I've got to take the floor up in here. Thankfully, it's a small room. So this is a 12 by 12 room. So it's not going to be too terribly bad. I'm hoping. I'm going to write some numbers on the back of it and just a way to identify everything so everything gets put back correctly in the same spot so everything fits properly. But this level right here, you can see, so if we put it kind of right where the front of this is going to be, and we get it, it's sitting fairly level right there. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. But if you look on this end, you can see how big of a gap there is there. There's a nice big gap over here. This is actually where the edge of it's going to be right there, but you can still see there's a pretty good sized gap. So what I'm going to do is level it. I'm going to use obviously the high point of the room as our high point for the leveling process, and then we'll just bring all of this up on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and start pulling up this floor and see where we get. All right, Joe, so this is where I'm going to start. I'm going to start over here by the door. The reason I'm doing that partially is because these are easy. This is an easy edge to get to, and this piece of trim is already loose, so it should be pretty easy to get things started here. So this is just click together floating floor. So we should be able to just get it started here. There we go. Alright y'all, so I'm going to go ahead and explain kind of what I've been doing here. So the first thing that I did was to get the highest point in the floor marked. So that's this right here. So what I did was I set the laser over in the corner and then just kind of went around the room with the tape measure, and the lowest point on the tape measure wound up being obviously the highest point in the floor. So I went all around, found that spot to be the highest. And then once I got done with that, I went around and drilled some holes in the floor. And the reason that I did that is I'm gonna put some screws in the floor. So we've got these drywall and concrete anchors. So we're gonna put the concrete anchor in there and then run the screw in. And what that's gonna do is allow me to have a reference point for level at each one of these points. So basically, I'll put the sleeve in the hole and then start running the screw down, and then I'll put one end of the level right here on my high point, and the other end of the level will sit on top of the screw, and I'll adjust that until that's 100% level across there. And I'll do that at each one of these screw holes. So I've got a bunch of them, you know, throughout the floor here. And so that'll give me a reference point all around the floor as I'm putting the leveling compound in. And that'll help me know, you know, if we're too high or too low, if I need to move some of the compound around to get it where we need it. So next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and put some of these concrete anchors in. I'm probably not gonna put them all in until I'm ready to pour, because my mother-in-law walks through here and I don't want her to hit one of those screws and trip on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some of these in, get some of them leveled up where they're not gonna be in the way. Anything over this way will be fine. So we'll get that done, and then I think that's probably gonna be it for today. All right, so I got some of these put in, so you can see we've got them sticking up there. That one's a little bit higher. So it's that way all the way around the room. Got one right there. Those are the only ones I'm gonna do right now, just in case she comes through here. So I've got a bunch that are kind of out in the middle of the room that I don't want her to trip on. So we'll leave that there for now. The only other thing that we'll need to do before we can actually do this leveling is they make a primer that you have to put down before you put the leveling compound down. So once I get ready to do the actual leveling, we'll put some of that primer down. I can't remember how long it has to sit, so I got to look at that. I think I have some left over from the bathroom that I did down here, so we'll see how long that has to dry. Hopefully not long. I think it might be 24 hours, but we'll do that, and then hopefully we can get this floor leveled up here pretty soon. So stick around, and we'll see if we can get this finished up. All right, y'all, so the next step, I was gonna leave all this baseboard in place, but I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it because in some places the leveler is gonna be up above that baseboard. And so I don't want that to be a problem for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all the baseboard off. I was gonna replace it anyway at some point, so I guess I'm just gonna kind of force myself to go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that taken off, and then I'm gonna build a little dam over here by the wall, or not by the wall, by the door, so that if any of it runs farther than I want it to, it won't interfere with the door. And then I'm gonna build a dam over here as well. So I'm probably going to wind up filling this whole room with leveler just to be sure that everything's nice and level, and then I'll probably get some threshold to go in these areas that are a little bit lower. But first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get all of this baseboard taken up. All right, y'all, so we got all the baseboard taken off. It cleaned up really nice around the edges. So what I got to do now is put some caulking. I was going to do spray foam, but some of these gaps underneath the drywall are almost non-existent. So in the smaller areas, we'll just use some caulk to seal that up, because when that floor leveler gets to those cracks, it'll just seep up under them and go all over the place. So I'm going to caulk that up. Any place that has a thicker gap, if there are any, we'll use spray foam. Might use some right here in this kind of corner here. And then I'm going to build that dam around here. So I'm going to go ahead and make some measurements for these dams that I'm going to build. So one right here, one at the door, and one over here at the stairs. And we'll go ahead and get those going. And then I'll do the caulking when I get done with that, because those will have to be caulked as well. So we'll go ahead and get those built and get them put in place, and then we'll go from there. Alright y'all, so we got done with the border sealing. So we got caulk everywhere. I did use the spray foam in a couple spots, as you saw. This right here didn't really need the foam, but since I was using it there, I just went ahead and took it the whole way. So we've got this over here, and we've got it sealed all the way around. The only thing I'm gonna have to probably do again is underneath this baseboard. I gotta cut that baseboard back because I'm gonna put a dam right there. So that's the only other thing I have to do. I was trying to get this dam put in tonight, but my bit broke off. So you can see right here, it was starting to try to weld itself together. So I'm gonna have to go get a new bit for that. So I'll pick one of those up on my way home from work tomorrow, and we'll try to get this finished up. I've got my spike roller and my spike shoes should be here tomorrow. So I'm hoping on Saturday, tomorrow's Friday, so day after that, hoping on Saturday I can get this done. I'm gonna probably get a couple more bags of the leveling compound because I don't quite have enough. I was only gonna do what's kind of right under the weight rack, but I think I've decided to just go ahead and do this whole room just in case at any point in time I want something on the part of it that wouldn't be level otherwise. Just so that, like, if this winds up being a bedroom again one day, there's not like wobbling of end tables and stuff like that. So I don't want to ever have to do this again, so I'm going to go ahead and do it all this time. So the only thing that I'm going to have to figure out is this, where the door is, because this screw right here, you can see we've got about an inch that we have to come up here, and that's probably going to be too much of a slope right there. So I'm probably going to just make this a whole ledge right there. So that's kind of the plan, and I will get back with you guys on Saturday. Hey y'all, what's up? So we're back here on Saturday, and I've finally gotten about 90% of the prep work done for this floor. So let me kind of show you what I've done today and what we have left to do. So I went ahead and got this dam put up. I'm waiting for that foam to cure before I can cut it back. So I've already cut the foam back around the edge of the wall here. I do have a little bit more caulking I need to do because those small gaps, the foam just didn't work out. And I kind of thought that might happen, but it did. So I've still got some caulking to do around these other dams, so I'll just get that when I do that. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure of is that the high point in the room did not get any higher at all. The weight rack that I've got is 86.7 or 87.6 inches. I can't remember. And the floor height when I get done, just the actual, LVP floor is going to be right around 88, I believe. And then I've got a 1/2 inch rubber mat that I'm going to put down. So that's going to put us at 88.5 or 87.5 on the clearance. I can't remember exactly what the numbers are, but regardless, I've got about a 1/2 inch to work with. And so I don't want to have any extra height here. So what I did is I set my level on my high spot, the center of the level, made sure that it was sitting level, and then I went around and just kind of spun the level and marked out on each side where we get to 1/8 inch of drop. And so I put marks on the floor with my marker, and then I traced out the line, just kind of connecting the dots. And then because I have to prime the floor, I was worried, I can't remember how translucent that primer is, and so I didn't want to lose this marking once I primed it. So I took my masonry bit and just put real small dimples in the floor. They're not deep at all, but they're deep enough that you'll still be able to see it once it's primed. So hopefully the line will still be there, but if not, I've got the dimples. And so when I'm pouring this floor leveler, I'm going to start over here in this corner. We're going to work this way, and then as we get up to this line, I'm going to stop and feather that edge as much as possible. But when I did the bathroom in there, I remember that feathering it didn't get it out to like a drywall mud type of feather. It still had some thickness to it, which is why I went with the 1/8 inch. Because even at 1/8 of an inch, going from there to here, it's not going to cause an issue with the flooring. So that's where we are right now. I've got all my screws in the floor as my gauges. And then the last thing I did was I went around the room and I set my level on my high spots. So, here or on the screw heads, and I made sure that the level sat level. So I used shims on the opposite end from what was being supported by the high spot. I shimmed the level, and then I marked the wall. So I've got little marks all along the wall that show how high we need to have the leveling compound. And so hopefully between the marks on the walls and my screws in the floors, this I made perfectly level with the height, so I can pour right up to the top of that, and that'll make sure that this area around this is perfect. So I can use just kind of the top of that wood as my gauge there. So I should be pretty much ready to pour as far as all of that goes. The last thing that we have to do is get the primer down, and then that has to set for between 1 and 3 hours, just however long it takes for it to dry. And then once that's dry, then we can pour the floor. I thought about priming it last night. The reason I didn't is because the primer, if you have let it dry for 12 hours or more, then you have to reprime. So I didn't want to do it last night, and I didn't know how long this was going to take me today. I was hoping to get started priming by 12 o'clock, and it is 11:59, so we are right on time. I'm going to prime it. That'll get me about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We should be able to start pouring, and then it's 4 hours from pour to walkable. So obviously you still don't want to put any heavy weight on it for, I think, 24 hours or something like that. I'll have to double check that, but it's walkable in 4 hours. So by bedtime tonight, we'll be able to walk on this floor, and it'll be all level. So I'm going to go ahead and get to priming, and we'll get that taken care of. All right, y'all, so this is the primer we're using. It's Level Quick's Advanced Acrylic Primer. I bought this when I did my bathroom a few years ago, so hopefully it's still good. But I also bought another a new one just in case this wasn't enough. But I noticed that this just says primer, not advanced acrylic primer. And the advanced says that you can use it on porous and non-porous substrates. And this says to only use it on porous substrates. So this advanced that says non-porous as well clearly states that you can use it on smooth concrete that has like sealed concrete like what this is. You can test that by pouring a little bit of water on the floor and seeing if it absorbs right in or if it beads up, and I did that just to be sure that this was sealed, and it did kind of bead up, and it took quite a little while for it to actually penetrate. So I'm going to see how far I can get with this. It says that you can get undiluted 100 to 150 square feet. This is a 12 by 12 room, so we've got 144 square feet minus the door area, and I'm not gonna prime this area right now. I'm gonna hope that I can get what I need out of this, and if not, I'll see if I can find the advanced somewhere. When I scanned that other bottle with Home Depot's app, it actually said that it pulls up on the website the advanced that looks exactly like this with the same wording on it and all that when I scanned the barcode on that other bottle with the Home Depot store app. So I don't know if they have something stocked wrong or if this is a discontinued product or what. But I'm gonna see how far this goes. Hopefully it gets it all, and if not, I'll see if I can find this somewhere else. But I've shook it up a little bit just to kind of mix it since it's been sitting for a while. So we're just going to use a roller for this. Just start in a corner and go with it. So the instructions actually say to use a push broom to spread it. They want to make sure that it's not pooled up anywhere. So these like roller marks, I'm going to try to get evened out as much as possible. So it definitely looks like we're going to have enough. Alright y'all, so we got the whole floor done. I did wind up having enough, so I went ahead and did in front of the door too. So I've got my phone set for 2 hours. It says it takes 2 to 3 hours to dry, so I'm going to leave it for 2 and come and check it, and hopefully we can get started on pouring the floor. Alright y'all, so here's the setup that I'm going to do. So I've got a bunch of water buckets and I've got all my compound here. The reason that I did it this way, all this is all already measured out. And the reason that I've gone ahead and done that is because this stuff only has like a 15 or 18 minute work time, and it has to be mixed for 2 full minutes, and it has to be incorporated into the water slowly. So by the time you get the whole bag in there, mix it for 2 minutes, you're probably at about 4 or 5 minutes just prepping each bag, and then the process of getting it put down on the floor and spread out where you need it and all that takes some time. So to speed up the process a little bit and hopefully not wind up in a situation where, you know, one pour is drying when I'm trying to pour the second one, I went ahead and mixed all the water so that I can just come over here, dump the water in the bucket, get the compound in there, get it mixing, and then get it out as fast as possible. So that's kind of the plan. Hopefully it works out. Working by myself is not the easiest thing sometimes, but hopefully it'll work out just fine. So that's the plan, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, y'all, so here we are with it all done. So it's got a cure for 4 hours until it's walkable, and then 16 hours until we can put the flooring back down. So I am pretty happy with how everything turned out. I was a little concerned that I was gonna have to put a threshold here, and I was a little concerned I was gonna have to put one here, but I was able to feather it out pretty well. It held its level up here and was able to feather out just kind of the last maybe foot or so of it this way, and same thing over there. So I think we're going to be able to get away with no thresholds, so I'm really happy about that. Obviously we'll need some here, but I was kind of already expecting that. I am probably going to fill this in a little bit, but I'll figure out exactly what I'm going to do with that later. The only two things that I kind of messed up a little bit, but shouldn't be any problem, over there where it's kind of splattered a little bit, that corner had started to cure before I got around to mixing the two pours together. And so when I ran into that with the spike roller, it kind of janked up a little bit, but I don't think it'll cause any problem. I think it kind of leveled out again after I got the spike roller back out of it. And then the same thing happened on this corner right here. It was kind of hard to, I didn't realize how long this corner had been sitting there without any new pores up against it, and so it wound up causing the same kind of thing there. But here I hadn't poured this yet, so I was at least able to kind of fix that with the trowel. But overall I'm very happy, so we'll check it with the level once everything cures, but that's not going to be until about 9:30 tonight, so we probably won't get back down here until Tuesday because it's Saturday today. Tomorrow's Sunday. I don't think I'm going to have any time to work on it tomorrow, and then I got to work Monday. So we will be back with you guys on Tuesday when we start laying the floor. Hey y'all, how's it going? So this thing is fully cured, so let me show you what we've got. So over here where I had that little mishap with the roller, I did wind up with kind of a crappy looking area here. So we've got some raised stuff here, but it also caused a little bit of a high spot here. So what I'm gonna do, I don't know how well you can see that, but we've got, you know, it's flat there, and then over here we've got a dip. So these pieces of tape on the floor are a representation of where the Smith machine, weight rack, and all that's going to be. So right here, it's pretty much right on where that support is going to be. And so for the most part, it's okay. You know, it's pretty level. You can see here it's really close. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. The biggest issue I have, you know, at the back it's perfectly fine. You know, it's flat all the way across. And then the center of it, it's pretty dang close to level. The biggest problem that I have is this way. So if we put the level on it there, then you can see it's good on this side, and then right here we have a pretty big gap. And that's because there's a big hump in the floor right here where I kind of screwed this up. I don't know how well you can see this on the video, but right here there's actually a pretty good slope. So because I've got a high spot here, I think what I'm going to do is just take my grinder to it and just grind this whole area a little bit. I'm going to play around with the level some and kind of mark out what needs to be ground down. But I'm okay if that's a little low because there's nothing really going to be over there except maybe some storage of equipment and stuff. So right here, I'm just going to grind this down so that we have a little bit more flat surface here. So you can see there's one of my screw heads right there. So this whole area is just a little bit low, and I think it's just because I had this drying a little bit before I got to pouring that next section. So we're just going to do some grinding and hopefully get that fixed, and we should be good after that. All right, y'all, so here's my grinder with my diamond wheel, my dust collection system. So you can find these pretty much any hardware store. And then the dust collection I actually got at Harbor Freight, and it surprisingly works really well. So it's got the brushes around here. It's got a port for your shop vac. So it's got the small port that attaches here, and then this port attaches to a 2-inch shop vac. I believe you can cut it down to fit any size, but it fits my 2-inch or 2.5-inch or whatever it is. And then another nice feature of this is obviously you've got the rounded edge, so you can't get up to a wall if you need to, but you actually can, because you can open up this little door and then you can get really close. You can't quite get all the way, but you can get very, very, very close up to a wall or something like that if you need to. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm just going to start grinding and see where we go. We'll have to check it periodically with the level and just make sure that we are not going too far and that we're getting enough but not too much. So I'm going to avoid this spot for now, and then I got a flap disc and a regular cutoff wheel that we can get that with once I get done with everything else. But I'm going to go ahead and close this up. It's a little bit difficult. There we go. And then the other nice thing about this is once you get the suction on it, it actually kind of compresses it onto the floor a little bit. So tends to work pretty well if I recall. So other thing is, even though we've got dust collection on there, you're still going to want to wear a respirator. So I'm going to do that, and we'll get started. Alright, so we got everything ground down. It's a little bit wavy in the actual grind, but overall it's really smooth. I think that you can actually sand this stuff with like a rotary sander, and I may try and just sand it with a palm sander just real fast just to kind of smooth it out a little bit, but I don't think it's really going to be anything to be concerned about once the flooring gets on there. I don't really think it's going to make any difference. I did kind of go through and try to smooth out around the edges where I kind of dipped it down a little bit. There's still a tiny little lip like right here, but I don't think that's going to cause a problem, but I may try to sand it down, like I said, with a palm sander. The only other thing I have to do is I do need to grind this down a little bit, so that's where my screw was. I hit it once or twice with the diamond bit, but I just definitely need to grind that down because we got a little hump right there. And then I'm going to hit this one over here too because it's popping up a good little bit. I think those are the only two that are sticking up. No, this one here, right here. That one's popping up a little bit too, so we'll grind that down. I'll check around the floor and just make sure all the other ones are nice and smooth, and then that should be all we got to do. All right, y'all, so the next thing I'm going to work on is this in front of the door here, this entryway. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off all this wood and get rid of all the foam. And then I think my plan here is to grind down this high spot. So right in front of the door we've got a high spot. And I want to grind that down until I get a 1/2 inch of clearance between the door and the floor. So that's my plan, but I'm going to get started by doing getting rid of this wood and getting all this cleaned up, and then I'll check the clearances on the door. All right, y'all, so I think I've decided what I'm gonna do. I'm going to try to get a full 1/2 inch of clearance between the finished floor and the bottom of this door, which means I've got to grind about another 3/16 off of the lowest point, and I've got to grind about 1/4 inch off of the highest point. So I'm gonna get to grinding. I got a lot to do, but I'm gonna see if I can get it to. I'm gonna see if I can get it where we want it, and if I can't get it exactly where I want it, ideally, then I'll just pour it with some of the leveling compound and get it flat at least, and then I'll have the threshold here if I need one, and then I'll have the rubber mat. So I may have to cut the rubber mat to make everything look the same. And if I do, then that's fine. I'll just have to cut it out here, on the inside of the threshold. But regardless, I really want this to be able to have either that rubber matting for the gym, or if we ever take that out, I really want to be able to have a rug here, or even not put the rubber mat here and just have a rug here. So I want the clearance that I need. While I'm doing it, I may as well just go ahead and do what I want. So that's my plan, and I'm gonna get started grinding. All right, y'all, this is what I've gotten to so far. It's getting there. It's very, very slow going. And I'm quitting now for the night. I've worn down my grinding wheel to the point that it's getting very, very difficult to work with. So at this point, I'm just gonna wait until I can go get a new one and get started fresh. I'm having to work really, really hard to get it to cut. So I think if I get a new wheel, it will cut way down on the amount of time that I'm having to spend. So if you like the content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the little bell icon so you can get notified when we post new videos. And we'll get this finished up on the next one, so we'll see you guys then.